Welcome to this version of Essential Skills webinar series. We're focusing on professional email skills today. My name is Liz Svoboda, and I am the Instruction and Outreach Librarian. Again, if you have any questions for today's session, please feel free to go ahead and drop those into the chat, and we will take care of those at the end of the session as well. Okay. So I will say that this session is fairly kind of top level things to think about. I'll give some specific examples of some tools, but we do have a companion webinar called That's Just on Gmail and kind of some of the functionality that's in Gmail. So I won't go too much in depth about this, but this is much more about kind of the communication styles and things that you should think about when you are trying to be little bit more professional with your email. So we're going to talk about actually a little bit about staying on top of your inbox and just being organized in general to keep your messages fairly under control. And then we're actually going to talk about addressing and signing off on emails as well as even replying to message. So the actual mechanics and like some of the things you should think about as you are actually typing and creating your messages. So a good rule of thumb is to check your email at least once a day. Just like if you still get physical mail, it comes once a day. You should probably check your email about once a day. Weekends, you can get away with a little bit. Depending on how busy you are or what kind of your job entails, you might want to check it once in the morning and once in the afternoon. Personally, I have it up when I'm working pretty much all the time, just so I can always keep track of it that way. But multiple checking is good. At least once a day is kind of the minimum. There are different inbox layouts that you can use within Gmail and other sources as well. So finding the kind of right fit for you is going to be important. So do you want to see the most recent emails first? Do you want to see just anything that's unread? Do you kind of want to see if those emails are important? And let me actually pull into my email here. Yeah, okay. And so right now I've got it set up so that it is just coming in as things are coming in or as received by me. Okay. So if I wanted to change that, I can go up to settings, and then there's a couple of different on your inbox type over on the far right side of the screen, you could actually switch it to important first, unread first, or starred first. You can also even kind of customize how you are pulling this in here. So again, kind of playing around with these and see what works best for you is great. I personally like the default, which is just kind of as things come in, just so that I can keep on top of it. But you can actually still customize this a little bit as well. The other thing that you can do to kind of stay on top of things is, so for example, I've got this email that was a follow-up from, and I haven't replied back to it today. So maybe this is something that I need to actually make a little task for myself with. So a reminder that, oh, this needs to happen later on. So I can actually have this highlighted or just add a task and it will kind of come in here. So I need to GEC email, and I can even like assign this a date and a time. So say I know I'm going to be busy a lot tomorrow, so maybe I want to make this thing like first thing on Friday morning. I'm going to give myself a little reminder that this needs to be done. Okay. You can even add in a reminder for this. So say right now there should be, oops, not there. If I wanted to like add in a reminder here, if I have this open, for example, if I have this particular email open, I can actually put in a little note on my calendar, and it's going to pre-populate the title of this. So I can say, oh, I need this to talk about, or I have a meeting about this on Friday, and it will set an email and reminder up in here for me on my calendar. So there is this integration with Google Calendar in your email, which is pretty nice as well. And say if I was going to meet with Jennifer on, say, Friday morning at 9, I could even add in a guest here with their email address, and that would automatically populate. So there's a couple of different options that you have in here to kind of keep on top of things and add tasks in as they come through. I don't use this as much unless there's a lot of emails that I need to kind of get through and respond to in a day. But I know a lot of other people are really find this really useful, that the tasks option really useful. So I'm going to mark this unread so that I remember that I need to go in here. So again, kind of coming up with a set system for yourself is actually one of the things to do. So developing that system of labels and folders to keep that important information in a findable way. There are options for searching across Gmail and your Drive as well. But actually in developing a system for yourself that not in addition to like helping you kind of store that information, but also how you are going to mark things as important or to star them. And again, just kind of keeping your inbox as empty as you can. There's a actual method called zero message inbox. So everybody kind of puts things away automatic. Like you can set up filters to put things away automatically. I don't practice that because if it's not like in my inbox and in like a rotating file or in a rotating message, it doesn't always happen that way. Right? I kind of forget where I see them. But for example, if I wanted to say, well, I have some stars here, and you can notice that some things are starred or some things that are set as important. Oftentimes I will have like, there's a little, there are multiple stars that you can use. So say I want to respond to this to Laura, but maybe I want to like upload it or kind of upgrade this to like, oh, you really need to get back to this, or you really need to pay attention to this message. So there's these little options here that you have to go through. And these can be kind of messed with in your settings as well, which ones you actually want to use. For the filters, you'll start to see that I already have some things that are filtered as they kind of come through. So for example, I'm presenting at a conference tomorrow, and so I've got a label that's created here. And these labels are actually kind of stored in basically a kind of file system like you would see on your desktop or in your Google Drive, and you can actually kind of go in to see. So say, for example, if I want to see what's going on in my instruction folder, I can go in and say, oh, this is coming from this professor named David Dransick from back in 2019. You can see information that I have like that's pertaining to him. If I'm going and talking to a specific person, sometimes I'll use their names. Otherwise, it's going to be a specific group that I'm dealing with. So for example, I work a lot with the International Center, or maybe I need to go in and talk to a particular department. So like the Africana department, for example, and I can even, create subfolders. I usually only go about 2 down. So again, it's Africana department, and then it'll be a particular person within that department. You can also have multiple labels assigned to these as well. So you'll see that in this Africana department, I have things that are also labeled as resources in new trials. They're talking about collection, for example, or there's multiple people being kind of talked about in here as well. Okay. All of these labels, you can, again, add as many as you want. There's no limit on this. But again, it kind of is developing a system that makes sense for you. Now, with these labels, you can actually automatically put in some filters for these. And again, this is going up into your settings and going beyond just this kind of default amount of settings, which is, how the reading pane looks and how your inbox is set up and how, dense and stuff is. But if you go into see all settings, this is where you can actually edit labels. So for example, if you needed to create new or even go in and edit. So for example, if someone has left the university, for example, so I know Angela Florini is actually left, so maybe I want to kind of delete all these conversations and then remove this label at some point in time. So you can go in here and edit things as you need to. Or maybe I need to just relabel this because the Africana department has joined with, other humanities departments. So maybe I need to relabel that. Okay. The filtered and block addresses, this is really nice. So you can see that you can actually do a couple of different things with this. So the few that I have going right now are typically about kind of listservs that I have that I don't necessarily want to see right away. So what I've done here is that I've archived these so that they are going kind of not to my index or my inbox, but directly to a label or a category. So for example, this one, anything from it matches kind of from an organization and it's going into a particular label here. Or down below, this one is coming from a particular email that I want to go into this newsletter group down here, so that I don't necessarily have to go see it, but like once a week I'll go through and look to see what's kind of coming up in this newsletter, right? You can also do this with other filters. So for example, you can say anything that is coming from let me see. So there's a colleague that I work with quite a bit. Anything that's coming from Maryland Filter and has the words council in it, I know that I am going to want to create this filter, and then I can create some rules around it. I've got the filter there. And then it's going to ask me where do I want to put it. And so I'm actually going to choose and go in here and go down to scroll, pardon me. You'll see that I've got so many things here, but I actually want to put this in this particular folder here. I can also mark things that like if I'm getting something from this person, it should never go to spam. For example, if you're getting messages from people, that sometimes happen like that. You could always mark it as important. So I know that like I'm going to be talking to her quite a bit. So I definitely need to happen that, or I definitely need to see that. The other thing is Google Inbox has a few different like kind of standard inboxes. One is primary, one is for like promotional material, so like ads and other sales that you get from people. Another one is social. Those are the three kind of main ones. So social is things coming from like Facebook or LinkedIn or other kind of messages that maybe you don't necessarily need to see. So you can kind of choose those as well and kind of move them to these forums and updates are forums I usually see a lot for newsletters and updates, kind of if there's like a reply or something, but you could just make sure that's going into your primary inbox if that's the one that you check the most, which is typically the default set as well. So you can also apply filter like retroactively. So if I create the filter now, this is going to happen to any message that's coming in the future. But if I want to say, hey, any message that I have from Maryland in the past that matches this, I want to apply this to. If I click here, it's going to apply to all of those past messages. Okay, so and again, this is like how it mark as read or skip like archive it into that newsletter inbox, for example. So I'm just going to create the filter, and then anything that comes in, it's going to come in and make sure that it's there. Okay. And again, I can come in and edit and delete these at any particular time. So actually this last one here, I actually don't need to do this anymore. So I'm going to delete the filter, and there it goes. Okay. All right. So keeping on top of your inbox and just kind of keeping it organized is probably the best rule of thumb when it comes to, emailing in a professional sense and being aware of what's going on with your job or with your class. So creating filters that are kind of geared towards a specific class is really useful. A lot of Canvas stuff will come in with that class code. So kind of keeping up to date like that. But in general, when you're actually kind of sending emails, you kind of there's a particular, culture about sending emails and kind of some basic rudimentary etiquette when it comes to sending emails. So addressing who you're addressing to is the best way to go about this. So there are three different kind of ways to address an email to somebody. And this is not even in the message. This is in the first like line of your address bar, basically. So your should be the main recipient of the message, someone who you are often going to expect a reply from, or this is just like kind of the default, like this is who I want to send this message to. Okay. CC stands for carbon copy, so one of those holdovers from an earlier time, shall we say. And you use this when you kind of need to inform somebody that you are talking to this other person that's in the to column, but you don't necessarily expect a response from them. You just kind of want them to be aware of what's going on. I'll also sometimes use this. So if I'm sending out a message to like the happenings list at the university, for example, I will often CC myself just to make sure that I can see kind of what other people see or that I know that it got sent out. That's one way to use it. I could also use a blind CC for this. So this is something that I would rarely use, but like again, maybe if I wanted to like make sure that this got sent out in a timely manner and it doesn't, I can actually see that it gets sent out and would show up in my inbox, I would use a blind CC. Um, and but truthfully, using a blind CC to like inform somebody that you've sent an email is a little sus. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little sneaky, because the people that are in the to and in the CC lines are not going to see that blind carbon copy person at all. Okay, so it's a little bit sneaky, but it's sometimes useful. Okay, and then the last bit here is that the subject of your email, you should always include a subject. Please do. I've received so many emails that just do not have a subject. I have no idea what they are about. Okay, I don't know how important they are because when they come up into my email, I need to have that subject there. And they should also be pertinent to what you're actually talking about, not just like question or not just like whatever. It should be question about this project or question about this thing or what they're actually contacting you about. Let me pull up my inbox here and I'll just show you guys what we mean by we're talking about stuff here. So if I'm going to compose an email, obviously you hit compose down here, you go to. If I wanted to include either a CC or a blind CC, I just add those in and I can actually start typing. So, particular people, if I was going to email some colleagues here. So for example, in this instance, I'm email my director about something, but then maybe I actually do need to just CC Emily, my colleague Emily, to let her know I'm talking about this. Again, the subject should be short. It should be not just like question for you or something like that. Or, it is actually like my colleague Laura here has given me information about business cards. Like, oh yes, we ordered business cards. She's giving me an update, right? So it can be as short as that. Sometimes it could be a little bit longer, but just kind of, again, making sure that it's to the point and that it's really specific to what your message is going to be will help you so much. Okay. All right. So once we've got kind of like the addressee and the subject taken care of and everything else like that, begin with a greeting. Seems really sometimes seems really obvious that you should begin with a greeting, but not everybody does that. Okay. But how you greet someone is going to depend on your relationship, right, with that person. So if you've never met this person before, or if they are really important to you in some way. So say, for example, I was going to email my director. When she first got hired in, I said Dr. Dean, and now like 2 years in, Jennifer is fine. Okay. Because we're a little bit more informal in the library, right? You're going to have to kind of suss out how your professors or your boss or your colleagues like to be addressed. And again, it's just showing respect for them that this is how you would like to address them. So more formal greetings like hello, this person, or dear, this person, adding their title in. So Professor so-and-so or Mr. or mix, for example, depending on what their pronouns are, how they would like to be addressed. Again, as these kind of relationships develop, or if you're, addressing like a colleague or a classmate or someone, your peer, hi, Dan, for example, perfectly perfectly acceptable. And again, if you are developing this relationship with someone who is, important, or like your professor or something, kind of taking cues from how they've responded to you will help. So for example, when new faculty come in and I send out a message, say, hi, I'm Liz from the library and I'm here to help you with instruction, right? I'll say, hi, Professor so-and-so, and then sign, my full Liz Kubota, everything like that with my full like first and last name, okay? If I get back a message that says, oh, thanks, Liz, for this, Dr. So-and-so, I'll continue to use Dr. So-and-so as that message greeting, right? But if they come back and say, oh, thanks, Dan, and not even like their last name or whatever, then I might use their first name Dan as their greeting. I would try to avoid any greetings that seem short or rude. Yo, prof, never a good idea, unless it's like, again, if you have some joking relationship or some other thing, but again, you got to be real careful with this kind of rhetoric. So I would always err on the side of hello, professor. And then again, that's going to be much more well received, typically with your professors. Again, there's a lot of variation in how our professors interact with their students. Some are much more formal, some are less formal. So again, really paying attention to the cues of the relationship will be helpful. Okay. So you address your email, you kind of keep the language, again, short to the point. Emails are typically actually, they should get the point across fairly quickly. If they're longer, maybe you're going to suggest a meeting or something. But then once you've created the actual body of your email, you're going to go ahead and sign off. Now, you can use just your name. Like I've actually started to do this a lot more. But it could sound kind of terse, possibly even rude, depending on the context, right? So again, this is something that you might have to kind of develop a little bit. But when you do use a sign off, again, start more formal at the beginning and then, possibly get less formal as a relationship develops. So really formal examples include sincerely, regards, even best. You can be even kind of contextually formal. So, oh, thank you, or speak soon, thanks in advance. These are still pretty formal, but they kind of give you like, oh, I'm requesting for some information, or I've asked you for something, or we've set up an appointment, something like that. You can even do semi-formal or informal. So thanks, bye, that kind of thing. The other thing that's really great to do with these signatures is to actually create a signature of your own so that you're not typing your name all the time. And you can actually include more information in this and kind of format it so that it looks nice. So things like your name and pronouns. And pronouns are great for kind of that DEI aspect, and that we're paying, we're making people who are maybe not using their gender assigned at birth more comfortable, but it also serves another purpose. So if your name is gender neutral, but you do use she, her pronouns, maybe that's helpful. So my colleague, Jordan Tiffany, first name Jordan, last name Tiffany, is a man. He uses he, him pronouns, right? But a lot of people will mix up his name and just assign him or call him Tiffany instead of Jordan, right? So kind of, but making that it's clear that he's a man is that. Also, for a lot of names that we may not be as familiar with in the American context, especially if it is, I hate to do this, but I pick on Asian names a lot because again, there's that kind of the gender. A lot of Western people are unaware of any gender kind of specific names that come from an Asian country, right? It's just some kind of gap in our knowledge. So again, having those pronouns there is often really useful, especially if you've never met this person before, right? It kind of gives a little bit more context about how you would like to be addressed, okay? Other things to include title or affiliations, right? So what is your working title? What department are you with? Are you communicating them as part of a club or in a specific role? You don't necessarily, I've seen a lot of students like put in like their major and their graduation year, which is great. You should also include additional contact information. So your email address as well. You could put in things like your LinkedIn or your website or a telephone number, or for example, I'll show you in a second. I have a link that talks about how to make an appointment with me. So down here, actually, you'll see that this is the automatic signature that I populate every time. And I've got this set up and I'll show you how to do this in a second. But you'll see that I've got my name, my pronouns, my title, my rank and title here. So my rank is Senior Associate Librarian, my title is Instruction Outreach Librarian. Then I have additionally information about what department I'm in, right? So Francis Wilson Thompson Library, University of Michigan Flint, my office phone number, as well as my email, and then a link that makes an appointment with me. And then I've made this formal one extra special, and it has a name coach. So again, this is a tool that the university gives So you can actually record yourself saying your name, and then the person who is responding to that, if they're don't know how to pronounce my last name, Svoboda, for example, they can click on that and hear me say my name. Right. You can also do fun things like, put a logo and other things in a signature like this. So these are, again, really multimodal. They are rich text as well. So this is one signature that I have, but you can actually have multiple signatures, and you can even change this down at the very bottom. You'll say insert signature, and you can say, I don't want a signature on this. I'm just replying to something, and it's like this long kind of conversational thread, so I don't need to sign my name. You can label these things. So this is a short signature. So again, I take out some of that extra stuff, and it's just my name, rank, title, as well as contact information. I've even got one that is literally just my name so that I don't have to type my name. Okay. How you kind of format these and put these together is, again, if you go up to settings, right, scroll this up, and then CL settings. This is where you go in under general, and then they're down here towards the bottom a little bit. And into the signature section, this is where you actually are able to go in and create these items. So for simple ones like my short signature, or even just my name, I can use this box to do this. And there is a little bit of formatting that you can do in here. So say, for example, if I wanted to make my name bold, I can do that, or even like make it just my name. You can do different fonts and other things. I would stick with sans serif. Some of these slightly less fun, I guess. They're pretty cut and dried and just kind of pretty simple. But if you do prefer something with serifs and use like Garamond or Georgia or something, you could do that. But there is a little bit of formatting that you can do within this. Now, if you do make any changes, you're always going to have to go down here and save changes. Okay. Now you might be wondering how I created that really cool email signature. I actually had to go into Google Docs to create this. And basically this is a table that I've created. I found how to do this online. And I basically copied and pasted in this little icon here for the name, and then it actually should be linked to the read alike or the name coach, as well as how to do this. And so I've got it's a two row, 2-column table. So 1 column, 2 column, 1 row, 2 row, and then I just have, like, I messed with the borders that you see around here. If you like this and want to do something similar, on our website about this particular email webinar series, under Gmail in the professional email resources area, I have information about Name Coach, but I also have the email signature template. So if you do want to copy this, basically you click on this, it's a Google Doc, and it's going to prompt you to make your own, save your own copy of it, and then you can mess with the formatting as well. So I'm going to pop this in the chat for you all so that you have it, in case you want to go forward with this. All right. Oh, here's all this information about email signatures. So again, depending on what your purpose is, again, some can be more detailed and formal, others not so much. So again, kind of sussing out what your relationship with the person is that you're messaging is going to be really useful. Okay. So for example, I just use when I first send out things, I will use that full formal email that I have. That's kind of my default signature. But when I'm replying, often I will just put thanks, Liz, put my name, and I don't necessarily have to have all this. But you can also put in additional things. So like logos, maybe even a picture of yourself, especially for if you're in advising or outreach or anything like that, adding in that kind of personal touch is going to be really useful as well. Okay. Now we get to, okay, so you sent out a message and you've gotten a reply back, right? This is an ongoing conversation that you're having, or maybe someone just sent you a message. How often should you reply, or do you need to reply? Okay. If something's coming from like a listserv or one of like our email lists, like happenings or like the all student list or anything like that, a lot of the time you don't necessarily need to reply to those emails. You shouldn't reply to those emails, right? Unless you have a question for the person who sends it out or want some more information from them. If a message is sent specifically to you or to a group of you and your colleagues, trying to reply within a day or two is pretty much standard. So again, keeping answers short, trying to kind of match the order of the questions or the order of information that is coming through within the original email that was sent back to you is often good and kind of, keeps the conversation on track. And being really careful when you're using that reply all. Okay. So when, again, figuring out who actually needs to see this message. Does it matter if can I reply just to one person, or does everybody need to see my reply? So really thinking critically and kind of really considering who needs to hear this message from me is going to help you when you're replying to these messages. But again, staying on top of it. And again, if you don't get back to it within a day or two, it probably is not going to be the end of the world, right? But saying, "Hi, sorry for my late reply," or "Sorry, I didn't see this earlier," just giving a little bit of apology at the beginning will often kind of smooth any waters, if smooth any kind of feelings or anything, if it did need to have been taken care of a little bit more readily, right? Even just like sending an email saying, "Hey, I'm really swamped today, but I will get to this tomorrow." Often that's a really good way to kind of go about this as well. That being said, or if you are students in here who are like trying to get responses from their faculty members, being really cognizant of any boundaries that they have put. So I know some faculty will say, "Hey, I'm on my email until 8 o'clock at night. After 8 o'clock at night, that is family, that is me time. I will come back and look at it in the morning." Or, "Hey, I don't look at stuff on Saturday that often, but I will look at things on Sunday because I know that's when things are due." Faculty will have office hours for a reason. So again, kind of setting and respecting other people's boundaries at work is going to be really useful. And again, just good etiquette when it comes to kind of being communicative with your peers, your colleagues, and your faculty members and superiors as well, like supervisors and everything. Okay, so I do have this essential skills guide on the library website. This webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to refer back to it as often as you can. If you want to email me, my email is here, as well as you can make an online or in-person appointment. But other than that, that is everything I have for you. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to unmute at this time or pop them in the chat.
Thank you for watching this recorded webinar. Find upcoming webinars to register for at libcal.umflint.edu.